Father Robinson, how are things in Denver?
Things are quite well, Andrew. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be here to give some encouraging news to the subscribers of our SSPX English YouTube podcast channel. And that is that we're going to be releasing very soon an audio recording of the book Apologia Pro Marcel Lefebvre, Volume 1 by Michael Davies. I have here a sort of a an old paperback copy of this. Angelus has recently republished this series under a hardback edition. But yeah, this audiobook will be appearing, as I say, very soon. It's been done by Michael Sestak. He's back by popular demand. He did our audiobooks for Open Letter to Confused Catholics, and also They Haven't Crowned Him. And so this is the third book that he has recorded for us for Angelus Press.
Fantastic. So for those who haven't read it already, and it seems like that book was kind of required reading for anyone who was coming into tradition in the 90s, and it's still important. Why has Angelus Press, why have we decided to make this specifically available as an audiobook? What's so special about this book?
Well, this book is important on many different levels, Andrew. For one thing, excuse me, it bears testimony to the events of the beginning of the Society of St. Pius X. So effectively, when Archbishop Lefebvre decided to found the society and received permission to do so, canonical standing and everything, pretty soon after he decided that he would not be saying the new Mass, and that the priest he was forming would not be saying the new Mass, opposition arose. And there were certain layfolk who rose up to defend Archbishop Lefebvre when he started to receive sanctions from the Vatican. And one of those figures was the great Michael Davies, an Englishman who lived from 1936 to 2004. He was a teacher by trade, but also a staunch Catholic, a convert to the Catholic faith. I think one of his parents was Baptist, and the other was an Anglican. But he converted to the Catholic faith, and he was an excellent researcher, very very thorough presenter, a gifted writer, and so he decided that he would write a series of books defending the cause of Archbishop Lefebvre, and he named them the Apologia Pro Marcel Lefebvre, and an apologia is quite simply a defense. And so this book is a defense of Archbishop Lefebvre, and he takes in his first volume he gives a brief biography of the Archbishop, and then he takes a crucial period, the period between 1970 and 1976, and he really zooms in on that period, and he looks at the activities of the Archbishop, what the Archbishop is doing. He looks at the correspondence between the Archbishop and Rome, especially Pope Paul VI, and he provides something of a running commentary. And the purpose of that is just to point out how unjustified were the measures taken against the Archbishop, and this opposition to the traditions of the Church, and how heroic Archbishop Lefebvre was for continuing and just persevering in living the traditional Catholic faith and forming a traditional Catholic priest, even though he received the sanction of suspension during that time. And there's part of what's covered is the events of 1975, 1976, the so-called hot summer of 1976, when the Archbishop was effectively told to shut down the SSPX. He was told to cease and desist. He was told he has to say the new Mass. He said, "I can't do that." So he was told, "Well, you have to shut down," and of course he did not. He kept going, and he kept ordaining priests. So Michael Davies helps us relive those crucial years, and we get to see what happened and why the Archbishop was justified in doing what he did.
I came of age in the early 90s, and a lot of these events were still being talked about by people who were there, by people who played a part in some of these events. And it especially with Americans' short attention span, and I don't mean that to be degrading, like our country's 200 years old, right? We have a kind of sense of history that's different from everyone else, where we kind of see the events of the 1970s as a really long time ago and irrelevant to what is happening today. But things were chaotic. Things were bad for tradition in the late 70s and all through the 80s. Why is this important for Catholics in 2024 and on to read about, to know about?
Well, I think it's important, first of all, because it's part of the history of the church. As you say, I mean, I was born in the 70s, and I'm feeling rather old these days. The 70s are fading more and more into the past, and so this is an important chapter, recent chapter of church history that I think it's profitable for everybody to know. But speaking to our own times in 2024, this chapter is being relived today with the persecution, the ongoing persecution against tradition, which really has never stopped, but has recently intensified under the pontificate of Pope Francis with the document Traditionis Custodes and this real war against the traditional mass that is taking place throughout the world, with a lot of traditional Catholic venues are being shut down, venues for the TLM. And it's just so instructive for us to go back and see those years from 1970 to 1976, where Pope Paul VI was doing exactly the same thing. And he was telling the Archbishop, you need to shut down. And the Archbishop said, well, with all due respect, I believe that this Mass, I have a right to celebrate this Mass, and no one can take away that right, and that this is extremely important for the Church. And meanwhile, the Church is crumbling under these innovations. And so we're kind of back in that same situation. And I think the story of the Archbishop provides us with strength today. This chapter has already been played out, and we see that the decisions that he made were the right decisions at that time. That we need to just keep going, persevere. Even if we receive sanctions or we're told not to, we know that we're given a right, an immemorial right for the celebration of this Mass. So it's just very encouraging to go back. I mean, plus we see that we're not alone. I mean, it's not like we're having to reinvent the wheel or just like figure out what to do. This has happened before, and we are able to compare our times to those times and see that what the Archbishop did certainly can be done, and God willing, this is what the SSPX is continuing to do. It's why the SSPX still exists. It's why the traditional Mass still exists in the life of the Church. And if it's been done before, we just keep doing it today.
I think it's also important for those folks who have maybe recently discovered the traditional Latin Mass in the last 10, 15, 20 years under the pontificate of Pope Benedict or even maybe earlier, who see the crackdown on the Latin Mass and are very worried about it and thinking that this is the end, and kind of have a catastrophic vision of it. And this book definitely tells you we've been here. We as Catholics have been here before. It's like you said, it's happened before. There's a quote, I think it's misattributed to Mark Twain, where it says, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. It's happening again, not in exactly the same way, but there's definitely hints of it happening all over again. And this book helps us to be a little more calm and peaceful, I think, about the events of today. Would that be fair?
That's absolutely fair. I just see how some people who newly come to tradition, they're kind of in a state of panic.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'm in a state of horror at the pontificate of Pope Francis, which is full of scandals. And then they're seeing the Latin Mass being shut down, and they often don't realize that there is a back history here, and this has been going on not just during the pontificate of Pope Francis. It's really been going on for 50, 60 years. And so there's no need to panic, and there's no need to take extreme positions like sedevacantism, but we simply continue. We simply persevere in doing what we've been doing. So the SSPX has been here for over 50 years, and through the strength of the Archbishop and his example, we have persevered in providing faithful with communities where the traditional Catholic faith can be lived.
Yeah.
So the history is said to be the magistra vitae, the teacher of life.
Yeah.
And if we don't do ourselves a service to forget about what has gone in the past with the past conciliar popes. The past conciliar popes have effectively the same errors as Pope Francis. They're not fundamentally different from Pope Francis. Pope Francis is just kind of more in your face, and a bit more scandalous on the externals. But as far as the doctrine goes, as far as the principles goes, as far as these extreme dislike for tradition and not wanting tradition to have a place in the church, the same was more or less true for all the conciliar popes. And so going back and seeing this crucial period between 1970 and 1976 helps us realize that nothing's really changed since the council, and that likely the crisis will continue, but the life of tradition will continue if we persevere as the Archbishop did.
Yeah. Well, that's a great intro, Father, and a great reminder about why this book is so important. How will we be releasing this all in one kind of go, or what's the plan?
Well, the plan is that we will be releasing one chapter a week on Tuesdays, and we're very happy to be able to provide this book free of charge. Obviously, Mr. Sestock has done a good labor here, but we do have to pay him for his good work. So while we're providing it free of charge, we would appreciate any people who would like to donate to this apostolate. They can do that by going to sspx.gifts. It's a real website, sspx.gifts. And we appreciate their support for this apostolate. God willing, we'll be able to continue to produce audiobooks that will be free online. And we hope that people will enjoy listening to this Apologia Pro Marcel Lefebvre, Volume 1.
Absolutely. Father, thanks for giving us the intro, and looking forward to getting this started.
You're welcome, Andrew. Thank you.